All right, so Luton Town versus Manchester United. Sunday afternoon, 4:30 p.m. kickoff, and a very testy, very tough away fixture against relegation candidates Luton Town. And I'll tell you what, it should be the case that we talk about this game and say, wow, nothing but 3 points, right? There can't be any upsets, no banana skins. I mean, you talk about Burnley away and Sheffield United away. That was kind of the gist of things. Of course, Man United being typical Man United, we like to make things a bit harder for ourselves, of course. But at the end of the day, we look back on those games and say, well, with all things assessed, teams we should expect to beat. Luton Town, on the other hand, they're a little bit different than the other two relegation favourites. They're a little bit different. In what way are they different? They like to fight tooth and nail, and their home ground is a little fortress. It is a little fortress. I mean, of course, not to Sheffield United, but pretty much every other team that has been there has not had an easy day. Brighton have had tough tests. Liverpool, Arsenal, even though they won, Tottenham for 45 minutes while in the driver's seat, had a very uncomfortable second half. Pretty much everybody, barring Manchester City, perhaps, maybe even then, Man City might have, you know, had a moment or two where there's a bit of, choppy waters, but Man City, they end up decimating whoever it is they play, anyways. But Manchester United's turn to face the test of Kenilworth Road. Already played Luton Town this season, 1-0 at Old Trafford. Nothing to write home about by any means. Um, it's not going to be the same story, not the same outcome, not the same happenings in the game. This one is a step up in tests, it's a step up in pressure, it's a step up in difficulty, and a storm that we're going to have to face. A storm that these players are going to have to weather. Now, whether they've got it in them to fight off the stubborn, aggressive, physical Luton side, we have to see what happens when it comes down to it. But they've got their work cut out for them. It's a very physical 90 minutes ahead. And do I back this team to win physical battles? Hmm. Hmm. Maybe if there was certain Lissandro Martinez in the team, maybe there's a bit of aggression to match, a bit of physicality to match. Likes to rough up the attackers, much like Luton Town like to rough up all of their opponents. So yeah, not an easy day at the office. And I'll tell you what, they're going to have to get their elbows out when it comes down to the nitty gritty. But the tale of two stories with, of course, Luton Town 17th place away from home, not being as much of a fantastic campaign, but at home they like to always leave some cuts and bruises. They like to batter their opponents, even if they don't win those games. They like to batter them. Pillar to post or between a rock and a hard place. You can look like Prince Pretty when you walk into Kenilworth Road. You're looking like the ugliest clap son of a bitch once those 90 minutes are up walking out of Kenilworth Road. I'll tell you that. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough day at the office for Manchester United. There's no doubt about it. Manchester United, of course, on a winning streak at the moment. 4 games won on the bounce in all competitions. Um, 3 wins on the bounce in the Premier League, and yeah, it's a difficult away fixture now, and one that I'm not too sure about because it's one of those feelings that you get about an away game at a newly promoted side, and that newly promoted side, they can impress a few people. They've impressed a few here or there in the ways in which they've gone about their business in certain scenarios and certain games and certain approaches to those games. They've left a lot of people actually rather impressed. So, Manchester United's turn to rock up to Kenilworth Road, rock up into Luton, and to fare that weather, to fare that storm. And as I've said, I'm not too sure whether this team is quite built for that kind of a test. I don't know where their heads are going to be at for that game. Now, albeit that we're on a winning streak, doesn't default us away from the fact that Manchester United this season have been the most inconsistent probably for a long, long, long time. And that in and of itself is a problem, especially when we've actually seen a bit of consistency in terms of results. Now, a bit of consistency in results doesn't necessarily reflect accurately to the consistency of performances. Now, Manchester United look like there's a little shift in mentality, and I'll say it, there's little. I'll start and stop with little. I don't proclaim to say that Manchester United have turned a corner. I don't think we have. I think it's just more of a case of we're just when we need to get the results and 3 points, we are getting them, but it's not the case that we're conscious about how it is we're doing it. And I think for a lot of us in the fan base, we're probably less concerned about how it is we're getting 3 points. Right now, what matters is we get 3 points, home and away, and put ourselves into a viable position, secure the Champions League football, secure the bonus funds for the summer, and kickstart the Ineos era, the Sergio Ratcliffe era, in a more prominent position, more financial prominent position. And that's kind of where it's at. It's not that we look at Champions League football as Man United and say, damn, that would be an achievement. Let's celebrate the top five trophy. It's top five trophy this season because obviously 5 places, qualify you in Champions League. It's not a trophy. And to me, I don't think of it as a trophy. I don't think of finishing top four as an achievement. If we finish in top four, then, good, great, fantastic. Get into top four. I'm caring about Champions League qualification for the sake of the finances because I want Ineos to be as loaded as possible going into the summer. I want the budgets to allow us to have as much room as possible to operate. And Champions League football qualification would be a humongous boost to the endeavours of the first summer transfer window. And that's kind of where it wraps up for me with Champions League qualification. I know a lot of people might say, well, now that Ineos is here, let's start talking about winning titles and Champions Leagues. It's all well and good. We can start having conversations about being serious in competitions and taking these competitions seriously. Of course, it's nice. It's nice. It really is nice. But just slow your roll a little bit. Ineos have not even had a summer yet. And I don't think with the squad that's had 10 years, or a club that's had 10 years of a degrading squad, a degenerating squad, is going to be turned around in one summer. And mindsets that have been too used to, finishing as, first, second, and third loser in the leagues, in cup competitions, it's pushed this club backwards. It has pushed this club backwards, and we need to reinstate winning mentality as the norm. And the norm is what we've got to establish firsthand, right? Get to the norm part of this first, right? Worry about your trophies and everything, because that comes when you've answered the first question. It's like the trophies are the last questions on an examination paper. You need to answer the first questions. It's like if you don't know the answer to the first question, they say, oh, well, you can go right to the end, you can answer the other questions, but you don't complete the test fully until you go back to answer the first question. So answer that first question, and then everything else will follow. So I think that's the way in which I've got to look at our endeavours into this season between now and May/June. And of course, with all of the off-field stuff going on, is great. It's great news. It is great news. It's fantastic news. Seeing talks of furtherment talks of the project between Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos, and also the Manchester Council about how Manchester City have their own little sports park area in the east side of Manchester. They kind of want to turn a west side of Manchester into like Manchester United town, like its own little area of Manchester just solely committed to sporting infrastructure and excellency surrounding the glorious Manchester United Football Club, and really sprucing up the area, because Old Trafford, fantastically iconic stadium and one of the most famous stadiums on the planet, but you're going to shroud it in, furthermore shroud it in glory by building, this dream estate around the ground, enticing not just tourism but athletic focus in all types of sports around the world into that part of Manchester. It goes from the red side of Manchester being one of the most trashiest, ugliest places to, sporting figureheads in the world, to potentially being one of the most lucrative places to indulge in sporting fantasy. And I'm all for it. I'm absolutely all for it. And it's communal. It's a community focused project. And the fact is that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos have kept in mind, to get essentially the backing of its local communities, instead of Manchester United being the eyesore or becoming an eyesore that's just being left to rot by the Glazer ownership. Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe say, well, Greater Manchester Council, we want to put something back into your community, into your city, and bring more interest into Greater Manchester. And this is the project that they've got in mind. Of course, no official planning has taken place. It's all just talks at the moment. But the idea in principle is one that's very, very significant. So you know what? Fantastic, brilliant stuff. But anyways, back on to the Luton game. We of course, as I've said numerous times, very tough test. What kind of team are we expecting to see to do the job at Luton? Of course, as far as goalkeeping choices go, I can wish for Bayindir as much as I want. Apparently, Galatasaray are now linked with Bayindir. I don't blame them. I really don't blame him. I don't blame Bayindir if he decides, actually, I prefer to jump back into Turkish football and play some first team football as well. Don't blame him one bit if that is how he feels, because he ain't getting games. Not when Andre Onana is constantly holding that position in between the sticks on hostage. So yeah, it is what it is. But Onana, we know, is starting in goal. The defence is a big question mark, because we know that Harry Maguire, Lindelof, Rafael Varane, Diogo Dalot, all fit and available. Who plays in left back spot? Because I don't know if Luke Shaw's fit enough to play. In my match preview information, it doesn't tell me that Luke Shaw is unfit, and it doesn't tell me that Luke Shaw is definitely out. So I don't know what that's about. Like, he's not even registered as a doubt for the game. So I don't know if that's just a bit of information, a bit of the dossier that is missed there, or whether it's just the case that he's genuinely most likely going to be fit and available. But let's say that he's not fit and he's not available for the game. What does that defense look like? Does it look like Lindelof left back, Dalot right back with Maguire and Varane centre backs? Or does it look like the fullbacks are switched? So Dalot's on the left, Lindelof's on the right? Or do you potentially play Amrabat at left back as he has done already this season? Personally, that's not his position. I don't want to see him there. But Ten Hag might think to do that. Or, a bit more of an out there shout, um, Willie Camboila, French youngster from the academy. Does he potentially get trusted with a game at a fullback? Because the fullback positions, very important position to play, and entrusting a youngster to do a job there at a tough away game, a tough away fixture in the Premier League. Do we trust? Do we put the trust and faith in him? To be honest, I might be inclined to say yes on the sole basis that we've trusted other youth players in tougher games to do a job, and they've done a job. You know, Kobe Mainu to be, specific, and also Garnacho as well. Two players there. Camboila's also, come in short notice. I think it was away at West Ham. I think we lost that game 2-0 or something. But yeah, shorthand notice, but youngster, and probably on a path to improvement and growing into first team football, as Ten Hag has brought him into the first team setup and is putting more and more faith and trust in him. So Ten Hag again is bringing through another youth player in the centre back positions, which is quite funny. He's entrusted one attacker, Garnacho. He's entrusted one midfielder, Mainu, and now he's entrusting, or in the process of entrusting, a defender, Kembwala. So, which order does that go in? Which order does that defence set up? If it's up to me, I think Johnny Evans is also fit as well. So, Johnny Evans probably on the bench, and probably Kembwala as well. I think it'll probably be Lindelof left back, Maguire or Varane at left centre back. I'll probably say, who? I think it will probably be Maguire plays left on the left side, or would he play left side? Possibly. I don't know which way round that Ten Hag would like to start those two, but all I probably know is that that's probably going to be the centre back partnership. It played against Aston Villa, and it did all right. It did okay, and it's another tough game. Another tough game for that centre back partnership to try and do something, and hopefully it can do a job again. As for the midfield, of course, with Dalot at right back, of course. In terms of midfield, again, as has been for the past 3 games, or 4 games actually, figuratively speaking, Kobe Mainu and Casemiro to start. Again, just a midfield partnership that's got a bit of balance to it, right? Once or twice, maybe caught out a little bit with some of the runners, but I think that's more tactically based. But the concept in mind is that it's the best partnership in that position, in that part of the midfield that we've got. The best partnership we've got there. So for me, keep it going for as long as it can. Ride it till the wheels fall off. We've got Amrabat who can come off the bench to substitute for either one of those 2 positions. Of course, in front of them is probably going to be Bruno. Mason Mount's still not back. Along with a few other people. I mean, Wan-Bissaka. I think Mason Mount and Wan-Bissaka are sort of similar places in terms of their recovery right now. I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka apparently was soon to come back, very, very soon to come back, but apparently he suffered a further injury in his recuperation and has ended up now having his injury time extended by another several weeks. So no wonder that Ineos want to come in with sports science to fix injury problems. No wonder they've looked at that and gone, yeah, let's get the super doctors in and actually stop these crises from happening. So, yeah, that would be great. That would be fantastic if we can have literal Robocops as our players and just never get an injury ever again. It'll be fantastic. Of course, it's not going to happen because, players are humans, they're always going to get injuries. But thankfully, hopefully, no injury crises from now on. Um, it's probably not going to be the case, though. Knowing our luck, it's probably not going to be the case. Attacking lineup probably going to look a bit like Marcus Rashford on the left, Garnacho on the right again, and Hoyland up top. Don't necessarily have any complaints with that. I'm adamant that I want to see Diallo getting some minutes in the team. I think he's a talent that needs to be given that chance. And to be honest, I don't know if there is the Pelistri syndrome with Diallo that Ten Hag had with Fernando Pelistri. For me, he's a talented player. He is absolutely a talented player, and I think he should be given an opportunity. Whether he actually does or not, I've not got the most amount of faith in the world that he will get his breakthrough. I think it might just be a matter of time that we're waiting until the summer before he ends up leaving the club, which would be a shame. Would be a shame, but if he's not in favour, then there's absolutely no real reason to keeping a player around on the books if they've got nothing to offer, or they're not going to be able to offer the first team anything based around what the manager's team selections are. So that's essentially what my team is going to look like. Some key danger men for Luton Town, I believe. Duffy. I think his name is Duffy. I think you say it Duffy. Duffy, just an engine player, absolute engine player, just relentless, just constantly, non-stop in that Luton team, and we've got to match the energy of Duffy. Ross Barkley is looking to add a bit of flair in the team. I know it's Ross Barkley, and usually he's not necessarily the personification of flair, but he's still a Premier League footballer, and anybody in the Premier League can do or can work a little bit of magic, and Ross Barkley can do that. He can. Whether he will is a whole other question. But for me, Ross Barkley, Duffy, and Morris. Morris up top is a big target man and a proper fighter, a real proper fighter. Our centre backs are in for a tough afternoon because not just Morris, but Adebayo. Adebayo, he is tall, he is lanky, but that son of a bitch, he can absolutely bully a defence. He can. He's built like that. He is built, as in the immortalised words of Rob Holding, he is built like a brick shithouse. And that's exactly what he is on the football pitch, a brick shithouse. But talking of shithousery, and this is a warning to Luton players, by the way. If you think about doing any of that shimmying nonsense in front of our players when you score a goal in that game, make sure it's not a goal to put you in the lead. Because when players celebrate, like that before a game's said and done, they tend to lose it. They tend to lose the game. So just a word of warning. Keep a lid on things a little bit if you get the early advantage in the game, so it doesn't come back to bite you. Because otherwise, I'll be sat here, the biggest shit-eating grin plastered on my face, and I'll just say, "Told you so." So yeah, that's pretty much in terms of the preview for the Luton game. all bases covered. I predicted in previous shows, once on the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly episode 4, and also then last night on Anfield Uncle Rod's. So also do be sure to go check out Anfield Uncle Rod's as well. The football reasoning show, it was called, last night, and it was a good show. It was a very good show. Did our predictions, and I went with a 2-2 in this game. I went with the 2-2 because it's sort of on the fence. I'm happy to take some splinters into my arse right now, because I cannot say for certain that we will win this game, but I'm also very adamant, perhaps, that we won't lose this game. And I don't want to be in, either set camp to say that that's exactly what's going to happen. So I went to split down the middle. I thought Luton have got a lot to offer to this game. Man United can have a lot to offer to this game. It'll probably be a tasty affair. It probably will, but that's that all the questions about what this game is going to be. Those answers will be given on Sunday, 4:30 p.m. and all of that good stuff. There will be the match reaction, win, lose, or draw. Maybe if we lose 6 or 7-0, then there probably won't be a match reaction, because I'll just be crying, and Ineos will be crying, and Sergeant Ratcliffe will be crying, and everyone will be crying. And then Ten Hag will probably be crying and drying his tears with his P45, probably, if that ends up happening. But hopefully not. Hopefully not. Touch some wood. Touch a glass of chocolate milk that it doesn't happen, and just to double down on that, sip on a glass of chocolate milk as well. But anyways, hopefully it's a win that we are discussing in the match reaction, which will be streamed live straight after the game. Will it be instantly? I'd imagine, hopefully so. But yeah, do be sure to tune in for that. And then, of course, on the Sunday night, there is the Sunday takeaway show that Early Doors usually would host. But supposedly I shall be hosting that, or leading the show, along with perhaps one or two other people, if they so fancy it. Or if Early Doors Football TV so fancies it as well. Maybe a joint task force might be on the cards. We'll have to see what he's happy to go with there. But yeah, 8 o'clock Sunday night, the Sunday takeaway show, and there shall be, I'm sure, plenty of guests featuring on that show. I'm sure Tont will come back from wherever it is that he shall be, to join us. He probably, hopefully, is just running a little bit late, as opposed to being stuck somewhere else in the country, and maybe having to force to be staying in his car or something ridiculous like that. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully he's able to get back and to join us. But of course, Sunday night takeaway show, it's gonna be a cracking. It's gonna be a cracking show. So do make sure to come and join us for that. But anyways, I'm gonna love you and leave you guys. I'm gonna enjoy the rest of my chocolate milk, and also a little jam donut that I've got down here. You can't see it yet, but let me show you. Little sugary jam donut. Have a look at that. It's banging. It's banging. Absolutely banging. But anyways, thank you ever so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, do be sure to leave a like and subscribe, of course, on the road to 160 subs. If we can do that, that'll be fantastic stuff. And on top of that, comment section down below. Leave your thoughts and feelings about this game, and your score predictions, as well as your predicted lineups and your verdict, your feelings. Are you confident for Sunday, or do you think there's going to be a bit of a grounding reality check in store for the Red Devils? Let's find out Sunday. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time. Ciao for now.